Thank you for visiting Utah Bankruptcy Questions and Answers. This is a video series presented by attorney Amy Butters to help people in Huntsville, Utah find answers to questions they have about bankruptcy. If you need to speak with a bankruptcy lawyer in Huntsville, call Amy at 801-513-DEBT. That's 801-513-3328.
This is video number 5, where we discuss choosing the right bankruptcy chapter for you. Now, when you're thinking about what chapter to file, either Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 with most individuals, these are some questions you should ask yourself. Number 1, do you want a clean slate now, or do you want to catch up on missed payments? Number 2, what kinds of debts do you have? How many missed payments or full balances do you have? Are your debts primarily business or personal? Are you trying to keep certain properties such as a house or a car? Now, a Chapter 7 is what we call a straight bankruptcy, and the idea of a Chapter 7 is to wipe out your debts completely and get a discharge. Now, one thing about the Chapter 7 that you need to be aware of is that the trustee will sell any of your non-exempt property to pay creditors anything that can be salvaged from your assets. Now, when I say non-exempt property, I don't want you to be afraid, because most people typically have exempt property, which means that the court has determined that certain things are completely off limits and won't be sold. Now, these types of exempt property include retirement, beds, clothing, tools, appliances. Most typical furniture includes a large amount of home equity. The list is a very long list that we'll discuss later on, but please don't let this discourage you. Talk to your attorney and see what property is exempt and what property might not be exempt. But in plain English, the majority of people in a Chapter 7 never have anything the court can actually take and sell. And also remember that Chapter 7 eliminates debts completely, but does not eliminate a creditor's right to its collateral. So, when you're thinking about whether Chapter 7 makes sense for you, think about these things. Consider if you have large balances owed that you cannot repay. For example, medical bills, credit cards, garnishments, judgments, deficiency judgments due to foreclosure or repossession. Also consider whether your debts are substantially greater than your assets. And consider if you need to temporarily stop a foreclosure or repossession and bring your payments current on your own, which is something that can be worked out with the creditor if you wish to keep the car or the home. Now we're going to discuss the Chapter 13. The Chapter 13 bankruptcy is what we call a personal reorganization, a payment plan, or a repayment type bankruptcy plan. This payment plan is put together with your attorney, taking into consideration your income and your expenses. And what is left over, what we call disposable income, then becomes your plan payment. Now, the plan is put together that allows you to take missed payments on debts, called arrears, and pay them back over time. The Chapter 13 plan can also consist of a combination of secured and unsecured debts and is completely adjustable based on your own personal circumstances. Again, your Chapter 13 plan payment is completely discussed and determined between you and your attorney. Now, the plan generally lasts 3 to 5 years, and it's based upon, again, how much income is left over after your necessities are paid. Now, what's considered a necessity is predetermined within the bankruptcy rules with input from the state as to what and how much you're allowed to have as your expenses. But again, don't let that discourage you either, because each case is individual and has each circumstances are taken into consideration. So if you're considering a Chapter 13, I urge you to discuss it with your attorney. Now, your Chapter 13 plan can also repay as little as 0% unsecured creditors, or it could be as much as paying 100% to your creditors. Now, as stated above, again, I'm just reiterating this, your payment plan is determined by how much income is left over after your necessary living expenses. Also, payment on your plan is made directly to a lawyer we call a trustee. The trustee is an attorney that represents all of your creditors collectively within the bankruptcy proceedings, and the trustee is given control of your assets and your debts, which we call the bankruptcy estate. The trustee is charged with obtaining as much as possible for the benefit of the creditors, But again, you also have an attorney in that situation, and your attorney discusses with the trustee what is best for you. Now, when you're thinking about whether a Chapter 13 makes sense for you, consider these things. If you have a pending foreclosure, a repossession, a garnishment, a judgment that needs to be stopped so that you can pay over time your past due balances, a Chapter 13 might be the best option for you. Another consideration is, do you make enough money that if given a little breathing room, you could manage to pay your debts? Also, if you have valuable assets you would like to keep, which are not exempt, but you are also able to repay your creditors with your income over time, a Chapter 13 might be good for you. Another thought is, if you need to give back collateral while still retaining other property, such as a car that is upside down, but you wish to keep other property, such as your home, a Chapter 13 would work for you. Now, it's really critical for you to remember that your Chapter 13 plan is structured properly with you and your attorney. Do not let your lawyer create the plan without any input from you. Often I've seen cases where the lawyer simply put them in a 100% repayment plan only to see the client fall and end up either refiling or losing valuable assets like their home while their case spun out of control because they couldn't make the large trustee payment. So if you really want to be successful in a 13, make sure your payment plan is accurate and it's something that you can handle. Sometimes attorneys put people in a Chapter 13 plan hoping that they'll fail, but I'm not those kind of attorney. I don't recommend that. I want my clients to succeed in a 13 because at the end of the 13, they get a discharge and they move on with a fresh start.
Now, if you enjoyed this video, but you feel like you still have some unanswered questions, don't worry, we've got you covered. We've actually created an entire video series that answers all the commonly asked questions about bankruptcy in Utah. Go ahead on over to our website, LaytonBankruptcyLawyers.com, and there you'll be able to download our free ebook, and you'll be directed to our main website where the entire video series is located.